chose for my assignment is called American Gangster, and in this movie is Denzel Washington, who starts off as a chauffeur and for one of Harlem's major bosses, and after his boss dies, based on Frank's ingenuity and his strict business principles he learned from his previous boss, he became one of the most powerful crime bosses within Harlem. So the five definitions that I'm going to express for this movie is conflict, escalatory spiral, direct aggression, compromise, and collaboration. So for conflict, conflict based on the textbook definition, it says an express struggle between at least two interdependent parties who perceive incompatible goals. So in the movie, Denzel, who plays Frank Lucas, he demanded 80% of Tango's money, or the cut he made from the districts that he sold his product. And the conflict led to a brief argument, but it led to Frank, which is played by Denzel, shooting Tango in the head because this conflict just escalated over time. The next scene, which was an amazing scene, by the way, it expresses the definition, the second definition, which is escalatory spiral. So this is when both parties treat one another with matching hostility, and each other, they can threaten and insult each other. And the scene that expressed this is in the slide. It says that it was a detective at a party with notorious product dealers and suppliers, and the detective groped one of the dealer's girlfriends. So it started off as a joke, but as it escalated, and then there was foul language thrown in, hence escalatory spiral. Jimmy Z, who plays Malcolm Goodwin, who plays Jimmy Z in the movie, he shot the detective in the leg because of just the building hostility towards one another. And in turn, Frank, and a great way to add to the definition was how it escalated as well was when Frank came over, he threatened Frank Lucas, he threatened Jimmy Z, and Jimmy Z was like, hey, try to deter it, and also threw some language at Frank, and Frank smashed his head under a piano. So in this one scene, it showed escalatory spiral in two different dimensions. So the next scene I'm going to explain is called direct aggression. And direct aggression is when, based on the textbook, it says lashes out attacks at the source of displeasure. So there's a scene where Nicky Barnes, who is one of Harlem's big dealers as well, was approached by Frank, because what Frank found out was Nicky was remixing the product or diluting the product and making his own, and the product was called Blue Magic. And when Frank came to the club, Nicky sat there and listened to him, and he felt upset because Frank came into his domain and told him what he should do with the product that he purchased. And this led to Nicky lashing out at Frank's conferences, because when Frank came into the room, he said, it's infringement, you're diluting the brand. He used a great example with Coca-Cola, where he said that when you add things to Coca-Cola without Coca-Cola knowing, you're diluting Coca-Cola's brand. And what ended up happening was Nicky hit a glass of wine and just said that he attacked his confidence in that, infringement, dilution, you using these words and this like that, like you understand these words. And the great thing is, in the same scene, or a couple minutes later, it led to a compromise, which is when both parties agree to somewhat. It's a halfway point. You don't get everything you want, but you get half of the things you want. And after that argument, Nicky Barnes, who was played by Cuba Gooding Jr., realized that Frank has the best product in Harlem, on the streets of Harlem. So he said they made an agreement where he's not going to dilute Frank's product as long as Frank make him keep his life and retain the cash flow that he was earning. So just to make that concise, Frank got retained his product's brand. Frank got to retain his product's brand. I apologize, my screen blacked out. Frank retained his brand, no dilution of his product, and Nicky retained his life and also the cash flow to live the luxurious lifestyle that he was used to living. So the next, I'm not very fond of this scene, is it expresses collaboration. Is when you seek a win-win solution to the conflict. So at the end of the movie, this guy who's Russell Crowe plays Richie Roberts, and he plays a detective, and he rushes the compound of Frank Lucas, who plays again Denzel, who plays Frank Lucas, and got his product, got his money, killed a lot of his people, terminated a lot of his people, and it was just a rough scene. And in the end, this scene also expressed compromise because there were some parts where it was a halfway point, but then when the collaboration came in was when Frank decided that, hey, you know what, I don't want to spend triple life, quadruple life, octo-life in jail, so I would give up all the dealers. And he did it happily because he said, in this business, you don't make friends, you make acquaintances, you make partners, and when the time comes, you got to realize when to let those partners go. So what ended up happening is that Frank, when the collaboration came in, the win-win, Frank gave Richie Roberts, Russell Crowe, all of the names of the dealers, suppliers, the locations, and this led to hundreds of drug busts, hundreds of compounds being raided. The supply of blue magic on the streets dried up, and the detective in turn became one of the heroic figures of Harlem during the time. And what Frank Lucas got was, or Denzel, he got freedom. And instead of the quadruple octa life that the court was going to assign to him, he was given about 25 years, which is still a long time. And what he also received at the end of the movie was a more enlightened perspective, because as he came out of jail, he realized that that is not the same anymore. The purpose of selling the product was to make a living, but now it's a whole different dynamics to the situation. So mob power fell down for Richie, a new life for Frank, and it was just a win-win solution right there. And again, this is American Gangster, one of the best movies I've ever watched. It just shows the American dream in its rawest form. I hope that you watch it because you learn just an infinitesimal amount of things from the movie. So again, the 5 terms I expressed was conflict, escalatory spiral, direct aggression, compromise, and collaboration. Thank you.